Welcome to episode 23, the Michael Jordan episode of the LAN Partners Podcast. I got someone special here with us this week. You might remember him, Matt.
I'm back.
He's back. He's back. And, of course, Dave.
Boo! Wah, wah.
All right, so this week...
Wait for applause. Okay, go ahead.
So this week with Matt being back, we got a pretty action-packed episode coming at you. Matt and I are going to review Horizon Zero Dawn. This is a big game that came out this year. I'm really looking forward to talking to Matt about Horizon Zero Dawn. Our discussion today will be the Xbox 360 history. I kind of been thinking about Xbox One X coming out and the launch of that, and the Switch coming out, all these just console launches over the last year, and I thought about, what about the 360? That was a pretty important system. Let's talk about that a little bit. A couple news stories, and our list for today is top 3 Xbox 360 games, not necessarily exclusive, just games that we played on Xbox 360 because that was just such an important part of our gaming past. Who we are is just we are 3 guys who have full-time jobs, families, and other hobbies. What makes this podcast different is that we will, of course, talk about new games, but we will also talk about games that came out 2 or 3 years ago as if they were new. We just want to share our experiences playing these games in case you're in the same spot as us where your gaming time is limited. Please download the podcast by Apple app, Stitcher, Google Play for you Android users, or just go on iTunes and hit subscribe. That way you get our weekly episodes uploaded to you every Wednesday. If you have questions, discussion topics, or list ideas, please message us on Facebook, send an email, thelandpartners@gmail.com, or just leave a comment. Check out our LAN Partner Twitch page. If you go on the Twitch page and you click uploads, you'll see a whole bunch of videos posted throughout the last couple months. It's mostly games that we've been talking about, so it's just good to check out, get a little visual to our reviews and stuff of stuff we talk about. So please check that out. Let's go ahead and kick off the episode. A quick Madden update. We are extremely close to the playoffs. I am sitting at 13-2. I got one more game to play. Andy Dalton will be benched the last week. I do not want any injury to my star quarterback. Dave, where are you at right now?
I'm not too terribly far behind. So I'm right now 11-3, and I've got this week's game to play and next week's game to play. I know you already played this week, so I'm pretty close behind. I'm only a one loss away from getting that first round bye, but you don't have a guy like the Texans on your heels. So
and you faced the Texans last week.
Yes, the last week. So
that's a big game. That is
it's basically going to determine the bye.
It's a huge game for you.
If you win, you get the bye week. If you lose, you play the wild card round.
As long as you both win going into that game, though. So
or lose, both win or both lose.
Next week, by this time next week, we will have probably the first round of playoffs underneath our belts, maybe, hopefully. We'll see, because we're advancing tomorrow, which will take us into the last week, and then we'll go into the playoffs after that. Yeah, so hopefully we'll have the first round of the playoffs done, so we'll update everybody on that. So that's Madden. We're going to talk more about that in the upcoming weeks once the playoffs get going. Let's go ahead and jump into a review for the day. We just got one for you today, and that's Horizon Zero Dawn.
It's a big one.
Big game. A little bit about this game is that it was released in February of this year. The developer is Guerrilla Games. Matt, what is Guerrilla famous for?
They're famous for the Killzone series.
So a first-person shooter, and now they are going and creating this huge, massive third-person
open world
RPG. Nothing like Killzone at all. I'll go ahead and just kind of give a background of Horizon. I don't want to say too much because once you get past the first couple hours, you really get into spoiler territory. So I'm just going to give you the stuff that you would basically figure out within the first couple hours. It's set roughly 1,000 years in the future. And the main character, Aloy, who is also a fun fact for you, Matt, the voice actor of Aloy is the voice actor of Chloe in Life is Strange.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Thought that was interesting because
that is,
you don't really hear a whole lot about voice actors, but it's kind of fun when you know, like, that important voice actor was that important character, so it's kind of cool. So the main character, Aloy, is an outcast of a tribe, so you're set 1,000 years in the future. Basically, all you know is that the humans are now in tribes, And this Aloy character was an outcast for whatever reason. You don't really know in the beginning. And she's trained by her mentor, Rost, who basically just brings her up as a child. You play as Aloy as a child, start training, and then you go into being I don't know, maybe she's a teenager at that point. I don't quite remember what her age was. Like I said, I don't want to spoil huge story elements, but the main gist of the story is that Aloy is uncovering the truth of the tribes, and there's all these dinosaur machines, and she's just trying to figure out what's going on. Why are we in tribes? Why are these machines? Because they tell you early on in the game that these dinosaurs are way more aggressive than they've been in the last couple years. So Aloy is very curious, like, why is this? And then you just basically uncover what the heck happened over the last, hundreds and thousands of years.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and jump into our pros and cons. Matt, what's something that you liked about Horizon Zero Dawn?
I think one of the biggest things I liked was the story. And like you said, we don't want to give anything away, but it's a very cool story, very kind of different. As you're going through the game, the game does a good job of giving you bits and pieces of kind of major things like at a time. So it keeps you really wanting to keep the story moving forward. You never feel like you're kind of just trying to finish the game. Like I always was looking forward to that next mission because I wanted to know what was happening. It wasn't because I want to finish this game. It's because I want to see what else we can uncover in the next mission. So I really appreciated that. Thought it was really cool storytelling. One of the other pros, I played the game on my PS4 Pro, which the game does take advantage of. So I was able to play at the upscaled resolution in 4K, and I was able to switch back and forth. And I also had the HDR, the high dynamic range lighting, which is, it sounds like you wouldn't notice it, but you do notice it if you looked between two different TVs with one that had one and one that didn't. And I was able to switch on my PS4 Pro from doing 4K with slightly slower frame rates or doing 1080p at a higher frame rate. But I mostly kept it at 4K because the game was optimized so well that it ran really well, even in 4K. So I never had any issues with like frame rate drops or, it feeling laggy or anything like that. I really like the weapons in the game. There's a huge.
Let's break it up a little bit here. So you really like the graphics and everything. Before we talk about the weapons and combat and everything like that, I just want to point out something that first of all, before we get into that stuff, one thing that I really, really loved about this game was the machines and the dinosaurs. All of these machines were basically set based off of either dinosaurs, like legitimate dinosaurs, and just kind of little fictional twists to them, or animals that we know of now, like alligators, but just turned up to 100. Like you remember the one, I can't remember the names of them all now, but the alligator, I think it was a snapjaw, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
It was just a gigantic alligator.
Massive,
massive alligator, the size of like a T-Rex. So
and they like move really fast.
Yeah. So I thought that was cool. Just the discovery of like, oh, I recognize that dinosaur. Like, that's awesome. I understand what they're trying to do there. That's so cool.
Right.
And, along with what you're saying about the weapons, I just want to point out that the combat in Horizon Zero Dawn just feels absolutely phenomenal. It just feels so good to execute taking down a giant dinosaur, because you could hit all those weak points. Yeah. And, I'll let you talk a little bit about the weapons then before I go into that too much.
Yeah, I think like you were saying with the weak points and like the battles, it's kind of a good and bad at the same time, I guess. But the battles were like, you can, when you're fighting one of those machines, it takes a while. Like, it's not like you can just run around like one-shotting these machines and like they just fall. Like, you have to really think about what you're doing. Like, I know we've talked about, like, if you're going into a section of the game where like there's a group of them, you're thinking to yourself like, okay, how am I gonna get, like, maybe I should try to pull one towards me, or you have to really kind of strategize what you're gonna do. And I said it could be good and bad because if you're really deep in the game and you just don't feel like spending 15 minutes on like a random battle out in the open, then you tend to start just trying to like run away, and just avoid the battle completely. But for what it is, I thought that was really cool that they make you really find a way to take down the machine instead of just hacking at it.
Yeah, you're not going to take down probably 75% of those machines just blindly shooting arrows at every piece of the body. You have to know, okay, I've seen this dinosaur before. I know exactly what I need to hit its edges. I need to hit that spot right in the middle. Like that's where I need to focus all my attention on. And then the coolest part too, along with this combat system, is that you could have all these types of weapon upgrades where you'll get these hard point arrows which do stronger damage. You can have the freeze bombs, and then the more you kind of look around the world, you'll find all these cool types of slingshots and stuff like that just upgrade your weapon so much. It makes you so much more deadly in combat. Was there anything else that you wanted to add about combat? Because, I mean, I could talk all day about combat.
I think, too, with the weapons, you could have different elements on your weapons, you know, like fire or ice, you know, and you could use that to your advantage against certain battles, too.
And all the dinosaurs, and there's like a journal, kind of like Witcher. There's a big journal where it says, like, this enemy is weak to fire, so then that tells you I got to use fire. And it's like any RPG type of game, but it's just... It's just really nice to have that because these dinosaurs are so cool and just they're so different from one another. So I thought that was really cool. Another thing, I want to stay on the topic of combat real quick. So I want to jump into a con because I thought, along with combat, the arrows and all that stuff was awesome. But the hand-to-hand combat with your spear, I thought that was a weak point.
It was rarely used, I think, for me. I was always trying to use either my bow and arrow or a different weapon. Because, I think... especially when you get up close to the machines, you feel like you want to do hand to hand, but at the same time, it just didn't seem like effective. And then I felt like for me, like the camera angle would get weird and like it just felt kind of clunky, you know, like you didn't feel like you were moving very quickly and stuff. So I would always stick to like medium to long range if I could.
And when you go up close and you swing, there's two animations. There's the R1 animation and then there's the R2 animation. And both of them are just not good.
It's like a heavy attack and a light attack.
Yeah, and they just, I feel like I miss half the time, or I'm like, I think I'm really far, but then I just teleport. Like, it just, the hand-to-hand combat definitely needs work. You can't upgrade your spear at all. You could upgrade all your other weapons. Every single weapon you could upgrade and get new ones and get better and stronger. But the spear, for whatever reason, I don't know if they just felt no one would be using it. I don't know. But they missed something there. With the spear. So I thought that was definitely a con, was the spear. The hand-to-hand combat just was not where it should be. Do you have any more pros that you wanted to talk about? So I got one more. I have that the side quests in this game are, for me personally, the side quests in this game are second to none. I know you really love the Witcher side quests. I have not played Witcher besides that first 10 hours, so I cannot agree or disagree with you. I'm just saying, for me personally, for the games I've played, Horizon Zero Dawn kills side quests.
Let's not get too crazy criticizing The Witcher now.
I'm not criticizing The Witcher. I'm just saying, from what I've played, the side quests in Horizon are amazing. And I'll explain this to you a little bit. In Horizon, the main quests are mostly story-driven, which is fine. But there's a lot of... You kind of sit there, you watch a hologram video for about 2 minutes, and then you pick up audio journals, and you got to sit there and listen to them. And you don't have to, but if you want to get all the story elements, then you might want to make sure you're listening to all those kind of things. But with the side quests, it is just 100%. I need you to go fetch me 3 of these types of dinosaurs. And then you're like, yes, I got to go fight all these dinosaurs. That's awesome. And then infiltrating these bases, like the side quests were just done so well, and I cannot get enough of it. So what do you think about the side quests?
The side quests for me, it was kind of like I don't know. And I think we talked about this in a previous podcast where I kind of hit like this open world wall, like a fatigue with me. So when I played Horizon, I really liked the game a lot. But Connor, at the time, you probably didn't think I liked it that much from the way I was acting when I was playing it, because I think it was that wall where there is so much to do in Horizon, and I was kind of just not really super interested in doing all the extra stuff. I was really focused on just let's stay on the main mission, let's keep it moving, because I did like the story a lot. So I said to myself, let's just get through the story. This is really cool, and then we can always come back and do other stuff if we want. And I think I hit that wall, and it was like, I don't really, and we'll get to this con too. I don't feel like traveling all the way over there, to that place for that thing, because that was a con of just the traveling for me. If you don't mind, I'll discuss that a little bit.
Yeah, and before you do that,
so you have to.
Hold on, wait. Before you jump into that,
Yeah.
there's one thing I want to mention. So the pros, like I said, the combat's amazing, the story is amazing, just everything is just extremely well done. Besides this, now Matt, take it away with the traveling.
Yeah. So I think it's done with good intentions, but what you have to do is you have to collect certain resources, and then you have to craft like a traveling bag or something like that, and you have to use that in order to fast travel. And you can only fast travel to places that you've already been to, which that's fine. That makes sense. But I think it got more annoying for you, Connor, because you did a lot of the side stuff. So you were traveling around a lot. So, like it wasn't hard to find the materials per se to create that fast travel item, but it was the sense of, I want to get over there, but okay, now I got to go find this so I can fast travel over there, because I don't want to walk all the way over there because it's really far. And that kind of just took away from the flow of the game a little bit. Yeah. And then also with the traveling, that we both noticed, you can have a mount in the game that you can ride on. Yeah. But we noticed that when you would load up your game again, the mount would be gone.
You could only have a certain time limit on that mount. So if you if you override a strider, and what overriding means is that it's an enemy, you take it over, and it's in your ally, you're able to ride it. But it's only a timed limit, and if you turn off the game and go back on, it's completely gone, and it is very frustrating.
Right. Yeah, now you have to find another one or just walk.
That was a huge con for me, that whole travel system, and like you were saying, just the whole way that worked. And another thing, I'll go along with the travel system, out of all the dinosaurs in the whole game, you're only able to ride 3 of them. Only 3 are rideable characters or rideable dinosaurs. And there's these things called cauldrons, which allows you to create the override for all these things. And you can only actually ride 3 of them, which it seems so pointless, because I wanted to ride so many more, like get one of those aerial ones and be able to fly around.
That would be amazing.
That would have been so awesome. And so I thought they missed a huge one on that one.
In the future.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at it.
Horizon 1 Dawn.
Horizon 1 Dawn.
So let's go ahead and jump into our overalls here. I'll go first because, you know what? I really love this game. It was easily one of my favorite games I've ever played. My overall for this game, though, is a 9.5. And here's why I did not give it the 10, okay? It's because the things that Horizon Zero Dawn kind of failed for me was other games have the ability to do it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like one of those things where I'm like, this game was really good, but I'd like to see this, but then no other game's ever done that other extra thing.
Right.
The things I want to see Horizon be better at, other games have done. The fast traveling should be better. The hand-to-hand combat should be better. Those kind of things. I've seen games do that good. So that should be better. That's why I'm giving it a 9.5 and not a 10, because there are things that they do need to improve. But everything else, like I cannot wait to play the DLC. I will play the DLC. I'm giving myself a little break. This game took me, by the way, well over 40 hours, maybe even 50.
Yeah.
I can't quite remember. It was like 40 to 50. How long did it take you?
I think it was like 25 or something like that.
So what is your overall?
My overall was an 8 out of 10. I thought it was a great game. I have pretty much all the same likes as you. I just don't think I felt as passionate about those likes as you did. That's what didn't bump it up to the 9 or 9.5. And then the cons with the traveling, that got to me really good. And that's always been a pet peeve of mine in games, like open world type games, if they don't allow me to travel more effortlessly or easily. And then 2, I think kind of a victim of the timing of me playing the game. I was just fatigued at the time of open world games, so that that took away from the experience a little bit to me, because a lot of times I would be that person just running through the open world, like avoiding all the random mobs of dinosaurs, just trying to make it to the next quest marker.
All right, yeah. So I think you got the LAN Partners approval to play Horizon Zero Dawn.
Oh yeah, definitely play it.
It's a must play for any PS4 owner for sure. You got to play it. It's if you like Zelda, if you like Witcher, if you like any of those games, like this is a great replacement for a Witcher or Zelda game if you're in a need for one of those types of games. It's really awesome. So let's shift gears into our discussion topic with the Xbox 360. I'm going to give us a quick kind of rundown on Xbox 360 launch numbers. So the launch of the Xbox 360 was November 22nd, 2005. Did you guys pick up a 360 on that day?
I didn't, but our friend Tony picked one up for me.
Ooh.
Because I was working. I remember I worked at this part-time job during school, saved up some money and put it towards that 360. And I had work the day that it launched. So I asked him because he was going to get one for himself, and I think he was with his mom or something, and because you needed multiple people, like you couldn't buy multiple for one person, so I gave him the money, and then he picked it up for me and brought it to my house later. That's my memory of that.
Dave, did you pick one up day one?
So the funny thing about Xbox 360 was when it came out, I told myself, I'm not going to want this. I've got my original Xbox. I've got my PlayStation 2. I don't need an Xbox 360. So I was very convinced that I was not going to purchase an Xbox 360 the day it came out. And then literally about 3 hours into the launch, I was like, I made a mistake. I should have got a 360. So then I did what most people did who decided they didn't want one. And then the same day that it launched, decided they want one. I went into complete panic mode, and I was trying to call people to see if someone was in line somewhere, and I ended up not being able to get one until about a month later. And it was really sketchy too, because I ended up buying it from one of my friends colleagues who sold it to me from the basement of their house. So that's how I got my original Xbox 360.
I didn't pick mine up until about 7 or 8 months after launch. It's not like I missed out. I just didn't want it. So a couple numbers for sales. As of 2014, the Xbox 360 has sold 84 million units. 84 million. Ooh. That's not the highest selling, though.
No.
Do you guys know what it is?
I think the Wii. Is the Wii over that?
PS2?
That should be the Wii. I'm pretty sure it's the Wii.
No?
I think the Wii's at a hundo.
I'm pretty sure it's the Wii. So here's what happened with the launch of Xbox 360. It began production 69 days before launch. All right, 69 days. That's not a whole lot. So they were really behind the 8 ball when it came to demand. So at the end of 2005, 1.5 million units were shipped. All right, so at the end of 2005, so they produced a 1.5 million within the first couple months of the life.
Yeah.
And then, from there, it obviously took off at May 2008. So about 3 years later, they sold 10 million. And then still throughout the rest of the years, they kept selling and selling and selling. But here's what I wanted to talk about. The big story out of Xbox 360. Out of all the things that it did so well and so great, there was the classic Ring of Death.
Ooh.
So the Ring of Death.
All too well.
I'm thinking for sure that the Ring of Death was related to it being 69 days. There's no real definitive proof of what happened. Microsoft won't actually come out and say, hey, this is what happened with the Ring of Death. There's just all these different companies that went through, look at 360s, what went wrong, and they have all these different predictions. But I found a couple different numbers. The Ring of Death failure rate was at 54%. Did you guys have any failure with your 360s? Because I had a few. I went through a few Xboxes.
I went through probably 3 or 4, I think, because of the red rings.
Yeah, that Red Ring of Death.
It was very disappointing.
Strangely enough, not because of the red ring. Every single one of my Xbox 360 failures was due to something that was not the Red Ring of Death.
And it's so crazy with the Xbox 360 is that everyone has all these issues, but we just kept running right back to it. Like, yep, I'll take another one. Yep, I'll take another one.
Right, yeah. Send me another one, yeah.
And so initially, when the whole Ring of Death started happening, Microsoft made a statement and was like, no, like, this is fine. It's a typical 3% to 5% failure rate. Like, this is what's expected out of production. But then it just kept happening and happening and happening. And then in July 5th of 2007, Peter Moore, also the former president of Sega America, he was the vice president at Interactive Business for Microsoft, the Interactive Business division. And he actually came out and said, like, hey, this is not going very well. We're extending our warranty 3 years.
Yeah.
And that's when it really took off, where people, that whole system of sending in your Xbox to get a new one. And
Yeah.
I did that, and I left my hard drive on it accidentally.
Make sure you take your hard drive off. Yeah.
I left my hard drive on there. So that's the Ring of Death. I mean, that was a huge piece for the Xbox 360. So let's go ahead and jump into Dave. He's going to talk to us a little bit about Xbox Live and how influential that was.
Well, and we're sitting here like, yeah, like for some reason when our Xboxes would break, we would go right back to Xbox. Listen, I'll tell you exactly why you went right back to Xbox. Xbox Live is why you went right back to Xbox, because Xbox Live was something that no other video game console had. Now, hold on a second. I acknowledge that Sony and Nintendo both had online services. Both were terrible garbage compared to Xbox Live. Xbox Live was the first to have that united on a home console space where you had one ID that was consistent through all games. You had your own identification that no matter what the publisher, what developer it was, you were seen that way throughout everything. Xbox Live has actually been around since 2002, which a lot of people forget. The original iteration was for Xbox, the original Xbox, not Xbox One, but Xbox One. And it wasn't in the state that it was today. Xbox Live really evolved along with the launch of the 360 and then again with the Xbox One. But with the 360 is when it caught fire. Let me just throw some statistics at you real quick. In 2007, Xbox Live had 7 million subscribers. All right. Now compare that to in 2008, it climbed to 10 million. You're like, oh, 3 million in 1 year. Like, all right, that seems pretty average. Well, hold on.
Wait. So you're saying at 2008, they had 10 million Xbox Live subscribers.
I'm saying that. And I'm saying that.
And what did I just say at the beginning of this topic? I said in May of 2008, 10 million units were sold. So nearly every single person was subscribing to Xbox Live. Continue.
Well, and get this. In 2009, that almost doubles to 17 million. And by the way, that is fueled heavily by Modern Warfare 2 being released, which was the first time Microsoft said that 2 million concurrent players were using the service at once. It was like the new limit to how far a console space could be pushed online. 2 million people playing at once was unheard of. And Modern Warfare 2 was the game that did that, was the game that helped push it to that amount. By early 2010, it had boomed to 23 million users and growing. So you're looking at from 2007 at 7 million to 3 times that player install base in 2010. That's 3 times the amount in 3 years. From an independent research organization, they said that in 2010 alone, Xbox Live generated over $1 billion of revenue. That's not including game sales. That's not including unit sales. That's only in Xbox Live subscriptions, $1 billion in revenue. And during the 360 era, like I said, PlayStation Network, pathetic. Nintendo's network, extremely bad. Live was king. So, I mean, I'm sure all of us at one point during maybe our third Xbox 360 was like, you know what, that's it. You know, I'm calling Microsoft. It's done. I'm selling all my stuff. I'm getting a PlayStation 3. Like, it's going on. I'm just going to play my PlayStation 3 forever. And then you realize you couldn't get into matches with your friends because PSN was so bad. The voice chat was really, lousy. The headsets that you use for PlayStation were all like USB and stretching across your entire front room just to plug it into the system. Like,
you had to plug it into the system.
Yeah. So I mean, Xbox 360 was like Microsoft, pure genius. They had owned the internet gaming space because of their PC dominance at that time, and Bill Gates, who was, is going to be greatly missed in computer entertainment, is the one that kind of spearheaded, like, no, we're going to release a video game system with an Ethernet port, and that was the original Xbox. And then he said, no, we're going to revolutionize games by selling everything digitally. He said that, and that was the goal, actually, at the time of Xbox 360. So Xbox Live, I think only in the past year or two has even come to form with what Bill Gates envisioned back when the Xbox 360, basically was king.
The Xbox 360 was king. There's no doubt about it. And every way Xbox 360 was king. I mean, I bought a PS3 really late afterwards, late in the lifespan. It was just I need some of these Sony exclusives, and that's the only reason I got it. Everything else was Xbox 360. So before we get too crazy about how great Xbox 360 was, Matt, tell us a little bit about the controller design.
Okay, so if you haven't played the original Xbox, critically the controller, which was nicknamed the Duke, basically because it was so big and blocky, critically the controller was viewed extremely poorly. Nobody liked the way it felt in your hands. Nobody liked the button placement, and there's actually a quote from IGN. When they reviewed the original Xbox, they called it a huge, ugly, cheap, and uncomfortable, and an abomination. So they did not feel, and they said it was ranked as one of the worst controllers they've ever put their hands on. And then, so we fast forward to so we fast forward to the 360 controller, which is extremely viewed positively, widely positive. Because the differences here is on the original Xbox controller, the headset port was on top of the controller, which is just a terrible design choice because now you got to decide if it's going to go under the controller, over the top, and then it gets all tangled and you're feeling it on your hands and it just doesn't work.
Well, keep in mind the original Xbox controller wasn't even wireless.
Right, exactly. So now you're dealing with that already, and then you put an extra cord on there. And then, so the 360 introduced having the headset port on the bottom of the controller, also with adding the wireless functionality of the controller. And so that was the sweet spot that everyone still continues to use, having the headset port on the bottom. And then the IGN credited the 360 controller for being one of the most ergonomically comfortable console controllers around. So the 360 controller is still considered one of the best controllers ever made. And the Xbox One just made slight changes from the 360 format.
Yeah, just a little skinnier.
But it's pretty much almost the same controller, just with some slight changes. So I think the cool thing is that I think Microsoft realized, hey, this controller on the original Xbox was just god awful, and everyone hates it. So we really need to figure something out here. And they did it with the 360 controller. And I think that was just another piece of the puzzle that elevated the 360 to just a whole nother level, which is why they had so many people on that thing.
Yeah, the Xbox 360 dominated pretty close to 7-8 years of just domination. There's so many other things that Xbox 360 did that no one else was doing. They came up with this whole achievement thing. And if you, Matt, you remember the first game you played, which was probably that Cameo game? Was probably, that was the launch title, and Perfect Dark. Yeah. What did you think when you got that icon? Bleep, and that was 10 points. Yeah. Blah blah blah. What was your initial reaction? What is happening?
Yeah, I think I was like, what was that? And then you figure out that if you click the middle button, it explains to you what you just did. Yeah. And then I'm like, I just got points for jumping on someone's head 10 times. That's really cool. You're just beating this level, so it added this other sense of okay, I'm playing the game and I'm not just trying to progress. Now I'm trying to do other little cool things within the game to now fulfill these trophies or achievements. So it was definitely just a really cool, innovative thing that they added.
that whole achievement thing was a whole different level of game playing at that time. There's people called achievement hogs that would go rent games and borrow friends' games and just try to rack up as many achievement points as possible.
Yeah.
And we did a discussion topic before on achievements, so I don't want to talk too much, but Xbox 360 really made that a thing with the achievements.
You know,
They
Xbox
just click on all
360
cylinders.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. That was all I was gonna say.
I was gonna say Xbox 360 really did another thing that I kind of like have been keeping under my belt here. I was hoping Connor would say something about it, but he hasn't yet. Guys, what would you say is the strongest point of Xbox 360 in terms of playing with your friends?
The ability to put 16 people on one TV playing Left 4 Dead.
The LAN parties. We are completely overlooking because Xbox Live was so insanely popular. You kind of forget that Xbox 360 was really the only good LAN party home console.
With the exception of Halo on Xbox.
Well, yeah, I mean that's what it is. The original Halo was great, and yeah, on the original Xbox it was cool, and I remember having Halo 1 and Halo 2 LAN parties and whatever. But 360 lets you in the same home LAN party up with games like Call of Duty and the infamous Left 4 Dead incident that I'm sure we'll get into at some point on the podcast. And
I think we've made our comments about that.
Yeah, we've definitely made our comments, but you know what I mean. Like Xbox 360 was the way to have your LAN party, and without being kind of like tied to right in front of the console with the wired controllers, like we were saying. 360, everyone just got comfortable, got in front of a console. It was as easy as hooking up an Ethernet cable, and you were playing Halo the entire night, and no issues. I mean, we could get into Xbox One and their crazy sign-in system and how complicated, complicated they made that. But on 360, it was as easy as add guest 1, add guest 2, add guest 3, done. All right, everyone get on. Perfect. Is the Ethernet cable in there? Perfect. All right, let's play.
And what made it easier is you could just link up. You could just make up fake accounts for everyone. Like, I'll be, this guy and this guy. Then that way, okay, who's this guy? Then we just link up the controllers and it's done. And I think Xbox 360 is still the premier LAN party console. Xbox One messed up. Halo 5 is only a single-player game. So why would we do that? We got to either go play Master Chief Collection, which blows, or hook up a bunch of 360s and have a great LAN party. I think you nailed it, Dave, with that one. I completely overlooked that Xbox 360 was the premier LAN party console. No one has anyone ever said, "Hey, let's have a LAN party." All right, where do you want to play? How about Resistance 2 on PS3? Has anyone ever said that? Please?
Not that I know of.
Yo, let's get together and link up and watch each other play Infamous. What? What?
Yeah, we could link up our consoles and all watch Blu-rays on our PS3s because Xbox 360 didn't have that.
All right, you start your Blu-ray at the same time.
Yeah, let's start at the same time.
Watch over here.
All right, go.
Sony, everyone, Sony on 3. 1, 2, 3.
I will openly say that PS3 was easily probably my least favorite console I've ever owned in my life.
I'll go ahead and say that.
There's not a whole lot of highlight reels on that PS3.
Yeah, that's a rough patch there, yeah.
PS3 to me, and I know we're a little off topic, but PS3 to me is Metal Gear Solid 4 and The Last of Us. That's it. That's all PS3 to me.
No, I agree. Yeah.
And if you're new to listening to the LAN Partners Podcast and you think we're just a bunch of Microsoft fanboys, no.
That's not the case.
Not the case.
Not at all.
These two guys love Sony more than I'm pretty sure their own families. So,
please do not think that we are Microsoft fanboys, because that is not the case. But 360, yes, I'm a 360 fanboy, and I'll openly admit it. Before we wrap this episode, Michael Jordan, up, I want to just hit quick news story. I don't personally care. You guys personally don't care, but I need to mention it. The Commodore 64 is getting a retro release. Did you guys hear about this? Did you see this?
I was hoping so. Oh my gosh, the Commodore. No, I didn't hear about that. No, it's stupid.
Yeah, this is just another old console that no one wants to play, who's trying to jump on the Nintendo.
Trying to jump on the bandwagon,
yeah. Oh, wow, Nintendo's so popular now. Let's release the Commodore 64. Nope. No one cares.
I'm telling you, man, Game Boy Advance Classic with a link cable. I'm telling you.
I'm
that's
all
where it's at.
for a handheld classic like Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance. Get all those Game Boys on one thing. I don't know if it would have to be a handheld or just a console that we could play all those games on. I'm all for that. I'm in support of
It has to be a handheld. It has to be a handheld, and it has to have that old school backlit Game Boy Color screen.
Yeah.
And you have to use a link cable to trade with people like Pokemon and stuff.
Does it have to be smaller than original Game Boy? Because I mean, how much smaller can I get? Like a
I don't know. Okay, so
Has
here
to fit
side
AA
question.
batteries.
Side question. Are you ready? Would you rather have the Game Boy SP Classic or the Game Boy Color Classic?
what's a Game Boy SP?
That's a Game Boy Advance. It's a Game Boy Advance. So
I would
it's
say
the one.
color.
It's the one that you've never had one. It's one that
I
like
didn't
flipped
own
open
either
and
one.
closed.
I only owned the
Wow.
original Game Boy. Circa.
I had the
whatever
original
year.
and the color.
I only had the
The
original.
SP was always my favorite version of the Game Boy because I guess it was a Game Boy Advance. That's why we're not. That's why I kind of messed up there.
I think I was like a 10-year-old, like cynical, like, oh, I don't want that Game Boy Color. That's not very cool. Like, oh, that's not nostalgic. I don't know. I think I was against the Game Boy Color or something. I don't know. I remember. I definitely didn't want it.
me and the boys in between classes,
Yeah.
college courses, used to pull out our Game Boy SPs and
But
After biology, we'd
yeah.
whip out the Game Boy.
After chemistry, we take out our SPs and flip them open, and we'd really have ourselves a time.
and then a couple big game releases. Shadow of War came out today, Tuesday, which you're listening to this on a Wednesday, so it came out yesterday. Shadow of War, big game this year. A lot of people talking about it. I'm not personally excited about it. Go back and listen to our Shadow of Mordor review, and you'll hear why we're not very excited for Shadow of War. And then Evil Within 2 is coming out October 13th. Matt, are you going to pick up Evil Within 2? Because I know you played Evil Within 1.
I won't pick it up right away, but I'll definitely keep an eye on it.
You'll wait about 4 or 5 days.
I don't think I'm gonna get it right away at all. I'll probably wait a while for that one. I have a pretty good backlog right now.
Yes, you do. It's only getting deeper.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and close down Michael Jordan here and go into our list. The list, again, is top 3 Xbox 360 games, not necessarily exclusives. For me personally, in this case, I think they actually are exclusives. I think it worked out that way. But so I had a bunch of games, and I finally narrowed it down to 3. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Matt, you're coming back off of your vacation. How about you start us off? What is your number 3?
And keep in mind, Matt, if you don't list one of these games that I'm pretty sure Connor and I both have, you're back off the podcast.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
no.
might as well just take another vacation.
This is pressure spot here. My number 3 is Left 4 Dead.
Ooh, nice.
Yep.
You know what's
A lot
funny?
of memories.
No, it's funny. My number 3 is Left 4 Dead also.
Are you
Oh.
serious? Okay, just so you guys know, I'm not lying. I'm putting my phone up to the camera. My number 3 is Left 4 Dead 2. Like, we literally all have Left 4 Dead as our number 3. That is fantastic.
All right,
Did you guys specify 1 or 2 though? Because I specified number 2.
I actually said 2. I said 2 on mine.
Yes, Connor, please say you said 2.
I put 2.
Yeah.
I didn't really. I put Left 4 Dead's, but
Aw.
let's just call it 2. Left 4 Dead 2.
Let's call it. Yeah, for sure. Let's call it 2.
We'll call it that.
Matt, what is your number 2?
My number 2, which is maybe surprising, but we spent a whole bunch of time playing this game late at night, is Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare.
Mine is 2.
Are you serious? Okay, so get this. So we're literally all the same, except I screwed up for us this time. I had Call of Duty Black Ops 2 as mine because like Matt said, I picked the one that I played the most in between the multiplayer and the zombie mode, which my friends and I played relentlessly. Transit. I mean, Call of Duty Black Ops 2. But again, Call of Duty for all 3 of us, that's really funny. I think number 1 is going to be the same for all of us too, which is the most hilarious, awesome thing. Can I do my honorable mentions real quick? I had a couple in there.
Yeah, go ahead.
Honorable mention. Some people forget that Xbox 360 is still in production, and there's games like Metal Gear Solid 5 and Gears of War 3 and other stuff that came really, really late in the cycle, and especially Metal Gear 5. Like, obviously, I would pick that as my number one, but I kept it like 360. When I thought 360 games, I thought 360 era. I did not include that kind of stuff. But anyway, let's all do our number ones.
There's before
do it all on three, or?
before we get into that, there's just so many games that came out during that whole lifespan of 360 that it was really hard for me to even just narrow it down to 3 games.
Yeah, we all narrowed it down to the same 2 so far. Go ahead.
Pretty impressive.
Matt, what is your number one game? He's not going to have the same as us. There's no chance.
Yeah, my number one is Gears of War. That's like the game. When I think of 360, that's the first game that pops in my head. I put so much time into that game. We used to do horde mode till like 5 a.m. when we were like, just a lot of time.
I had Gears like on my list. I took it out. I put it back in. I took it back out.
I did too. Yeah.
I couldn't decide. It was just so hard. Another game before I give my number one I want to mention is Fable 2. I loved Fable 2.
Oh, yeah, you did.
I was really into Fable 2. I'm surprised that I didn't creep that into my top 3, but my number one...
Were you disappointed about that new Fable that got canceled or whatever?
The card game?
No, there's a MOBA or something.
Yeah. Fable 3
Legends, right? Or something?
Fable 3
something like that.
Fable 3 was a disappointment for me, so I'm okay with Fable when it comes back. I didn't think Fable 3 was very good, but Fable 2 was awesome. So, Dave, on 3, we'll give our number one game.
Here goes.
1, 2, 3.
Halo 4.
Yeah. Yep, Halo
it is
4.
indeed Halo 4. It's got to be Halo 4. We talked about LAN parties, and the LAN party game on 360
is Halo 4.
Halo 4.
Yep, for sure. Absolutely. And plus, not even that. I remember just putting... I think my day counter was easily almost up to 10 days in Halo 4. Like, I just played that game so much. I loved Halo 4.
So Matt's no longer invited to the podcast. This is a really sad day. He just made his return.
Just a quick pop in.
Honeymoon part 2. So that was episode 23. Let us know what you think. Let us know about what you think about the Xbox 360 life. If there's something we didn't talk about that you thought we should have highlighted, I thought we did a good job of hitting everything important about the 360. If there's any games that we didn't mention, just a couple that I had on my list that we didn't mention, which I really wanted to, was BioShock.
Yeah, I thought about that one
just
too.
Such an important game for the 360 and gaming in general that I'm like, I got to get BioShock on my list. But the memories of all these other games that we listed were just so much stronger than playing BioShock, so I couldn't do that. Stick of Truth, that's a big game that came out, and then we already talked about all the other ones. But that's Xbox 360 had a good life, and we'll never forget it. So let us know what you think. Thank you so much for listening. Tell your friends about us. Listen to us on your way to work, while you're cleaning the house, mowing the lawn, whatever you got to do. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.